to the glory days at the stick. From who's got it better than us to brick by brick. It's always the 49ers way, from off-season to game day. Yeah, we talk back. It's the 49ers Cutback.
It's 49ers Cutback Podcast time. The game was a little rough, but we're here. We're still excited about 49ers football, but we're going to go through the good and the bad.
Believe it or not, folks, it's not the end of the world. There was some good in the game as well as some bad.
I don't know about that, man. It feels like it was the worst thing that's ever happened in the history. I'm kidding. It was bad, but it wasn't that bad. We'll be all right. Let's get into it, guys.
All right, man, let's go. I think that the Raheem Mostert touchdown catch really set the tone for the game. Right off the bat, that was kind of a big play. I thought the Niners were going to roll at that point. Just all the energy, all the momentum was going one way, and Mostert looked really good catching the ball in the backfield. I thought, man, here we go, 49ers right back on track. So I thought that was a huge play early on in the first quarter.
Yeah, unfortunately, after that it didn't go as well, but you're right. I thought the same thing when it came up. The first two drives, they absolutely stuffed Arizona defensively, and then they kicked a field goal. Raheem Mostert scored, and it looked like, okay, the Niners got this. And then, unfortunately, they had a blocked punt, and that seemed to be when things started to go downhill.
Yeah, the block punt was really bad. Wasn't great. It wasn't a good situation. The air in the room I was in at the time really came down because we were rolling. Offense looked like it was clicking. We were driving. We were moving the football. Defense was studding up. The block punt happens, and all of a sudden, short field position. They don't have to do a whole lot of work to push the ball in and punch it in. Very next drive, we go down, and 4th and short from the goal line. Don't put it in. Don't punch it in. And from there, momentum really shifted really quick. It felt like we were losing control of the game after what seemed like at the very start of it, we had complete and total control.
I think this is another time where it seems like our red zone efficiency is just not very good.
Yeah.
I think that's still a problem that we need to fix. I don't know exactly what's going on. I think maybe, especially on the one where they didn't get it in, I don't know. I don't understand the back choice on that situation. I know we want to get Mostert in the end zone, but his game is not really the straight ahead ISO run right up the middle. I would have liked to have seen Wilson Jr. in there, or even Coleman, somebody like that. Get them in there. I think they're more of a power style back. Even Juice, something of that nature, play action, anything. I wasn't a huge fan of the call. I was a huge fan of the decision to go for it. Maybe not a huge fan of the overall play call.
Yeah, to me, Raheem Mostert's not the back you want in that situation if you're going to run an ISO play. A toss, even a power O type play, he's fine because he can bounce it out if it's stuff. But right up the middle ISO, that's not Raheem Mostert's game. I'd much rather see Tevin Coleman in that situation, or just a straight dive to Juice. Either one would be fine. It clearly didn't work, and that really, like Alex said, the momentum had already kind of turned, and that was like another punch in the gut, it felt like, when they didn't score. Because the Niners last year were known for winning those 4th and 1 battles, both offensively and defensively, and they just didn't get it done right there.
Not only that, too, but what sealed it for me at the end of that half was the DeAndre Hopkins reception where Larry Fitzgerald runs over, grabs the ball, not too long after that, grabs the ball from DeAndre Hopkins, runs it back to the official at midfield, hands him the ball so they can get down and spike it. That move saved them 3 points because DeAndre Hopkins was in no rush whatsoever to get the ball to that official and get them going. And if Larry Fitzgerald hadn't done that for them, there's a good chance they wouldn't have put 3 points up on the board, and we would have been in a position there at the end of the game to just kick a field goal to win it. That is an underappreciated moment in that game. Watching Larry Fitzgerald do that, I was crushed at the time when I saw it because I was like, that dude just saved them 3 points. He legitimately just guaranteed that no matter what here at the end of the half, they're going to put 3 on the board and start the second half with the football. That was like the nail in the coffin for me for the momentum completely turning, the goal line play. And then that afterwards, I was sitting there going, we're going to be playing from behind here at the start of the second half. We're going to have to find something quick. And we just never really did.
Yeah, I think the 49ers maybe didn't get going, but that's not uncommon for them coming out in the third quarter. It's not always, right away that they get it going. But they looked just a little out of sorts. But the one thing I will bring up is still a big play in the game. And I think we might have passed it up, is the Tart interception.
Yeah.
Because Greenlaw makes a great play, tips the ball in the air, and Tart gets an interception. And that's all we've talked about over the offseason is the safeties haven't made a lot of plays. And I've seen him make a really good play. He's in the right place at the right time. And that's a good sign. We need plays from the secondary. We need turnovers. Quan punched the ball out. Even though we didn't get it, still caused fumbles. So some of these times, the ball doesn't bounce our way, but they're still in there making plays. So those are good things that happen in the game.
Yeah, and I thought throughout the first half, the defensive linebackers did a great job containing Kyler Murray throughout the first half. And as you pointed out, they had Tarvarius Moore spying him a lot, and it seemed like he was struggling to get going. It looked like my 200 yards prediction was about to be spot on because he wasn't doing too much. And then the second half started, and for some reason they did not have Tarvarius Moore spy him.
Yeah.
And the defensive ends and defensive tackles, they got pressure sometimes, but they were leaving him open lanes to take off running at every opportunity. And to me, Kyler's still a run-first quarterback. He's a make one read and run kind of guy still, and he took advantage of it.
Well, and I think some of the targets for Hopkins kind of show that a little bit too, that he is a guy that tends to want to heavily rely on his go-to option. And Fitzgerald's getting up there. That's why I think they made the move for Hopkins, was to give him that sort of security blanket. So he has that guy he can trust and go to, because they were force-feeding him a lot. And we had talked about it before the show, Ant, how much Richard Sherman at the beginning of the game was shadowing Hopkins, and it was working well, and then they kind of went away from it. And the minute they did that, all of a sudden Hopkins started getting targeted hard there whenever Mosley was on him, and it started to spiral a little bit out of control. Hopkins got into a rhythm, Murray got into a rhythm, and then all the good that you had talked about we were doing, Horst, kind of just fizzled. And once someone like DeAndre Hopkins gets going, it's really hard to slow him down or turn him down a notch and get him to play like at an average level. He's just going to play lights out, and that's what happened.
Yeah, the 49ers had to make some offensive adjustments, and they did. Getting Juice involved in the passing game. I know they tried a little bit earlier with the wheel route coming from the other side, and it didn't really work out, and they got a sack on Jimmy. But then later on, they caught him down the sidelines, and so they were definitely looking for ways to get more people involved, and it was nice seeing Jet get that big touchdown. He's back, and he was making plays, and I think he's going to progress as the season goes on. So I saw great, bright moments from McKinnon as he was getting going, and I think that we kind of seen some things that give us hints on where the team is going to go in the future. And I still think that there's a lot of promise with some of the guys we saw back. Maybe just lacking a little bit in the receiver area. We need some help there.
Yeah, I think the lack of Deebo Samuel was huge right here, and you could tell. I can't remember the exact number on targets and catches by receivers, but it wasn't very high. I don't think Pettis even had a catch, and Bourne had maybe 2 or 3?
Bourne had 2 catches for 34 yards.
Yeah, Kendrick Bourne had 2 catches, and Trent Taylor had 2
catches for 7 yards.
And then Pettis had none, so missing Deebo really hurt right there as far as getting separation and a guy that Jimmy trusts to maybe throw one up and make a play. And then when Kittle got hurt, it really limited his passing game options.
Well, to be honest with you, I think Jimmy did throw him up to make a play. The guys just didn't make a play.
True.
I mean, Trent Taylor had the one in the end zone, possibly. Kendrick Bourne had the one in the end zone. Dante Pettis had the one deep down the field. Those plays.
That specific one, too, I felt like he gave up on the ball. I felt like he could have at least laid out a little bit or reached out.
The Dante Pettis one?
Yeah, the Dante Pettis
one.
I mean, he's in double coverage.
He was in double coverage. I felt like he could have put out a little bit more of an effort. That's just couch coach sitting here watching the game going, we don't have anything going on offense. Why aren't you trying to do more to make a play there? Be a guy who wants to make a play, and it doesn't feel like you're doing it.
Yeah. Easy
to sit there and watch it and make that suggestion. It's easy for me to throw that out there. But that's what it felt like at the time, because the offense was at that time reeling. We were struggling. We weren't moving the ball very well at all.
Well, I felt the same way about Bourne's play in the end zone. Yes, that ball was underthrown. But Bourne did not make much of an effort to go get that ball. He kind of just fell backwards and let I can't remember who it was covering him. Was it Peterson?
It was Peterson. It bounced off Peterson's head.
And it let it hit the back of his head. He doesn't even try to fight through him for the ball. If he fights through him for the ball, he probably gets a pass interference call right there with a first down on the 1. He might have even caught it because Peterson wasn't even turned around looking at it. So either way, you're making a play if he attacks the ball there. He doesn't. Once again, underthrown ball, but he's got to show better effort than that, to me.
Right. I think there was a lot of misplays. I see things that they can build on. I still look back, and this is a 16-game season, so I'm not going to freak out about a loss, this early in the season. It does suck that they lost to a division rival in the Cardinals, and a game that they should have won. But I think this goes more to the 49ers not playing and executing well than Arizona outplaying the 49ers. So I think later on in the season, the 49ers can get back at them and win one in Arizona. So I don't think it was all bad, but yeah, it definitely stung a little bit.
Yeah, I agree. It was a tough loss.
All right, now let's go into some key comparisons and highlight some player matchups. I'm going to talk about Jimmy Garoppolo versus Kyler Murray. And on the surface, if you watch the game, you're thinking Kyler Murray completely outplayed Jimmy Garoppolo, but actually the numbers are closer than you would think. Yeah, Jimmy missed some throws and that kind of thing, but both players threw 14 incompletions. Jimmy actually threw for more yards, 259 yards to Kyler's 230, and he threw for 2 touchdowns and no picks. Kyler had the one pick that Jaquiski Tartt had on the tip ball, and they did bat down some balls. Kyler's height did have some issues, but Kyler's big edge that he had was the 13 rushes for over 90 yards and a touchdown, and that was the edge in the game, in my opinion, was the fact that the 49ers just couldn't keep him inside the pocket. And so when it came down to it, Jimmy G left some throws on the field, and unfortunately that's the reason the 49ers couldn't win the game in the end, because there was just some plays that needed to be made and he didn't execute. 19 of 33. It's not a great Jimmy Garoppolo day. I don't think he played horrible, but I don't think he played up to the potential that he has. So he's definitely got to get in rhythm and get it going. I don't know how much of that is scheme, how much is not comfortable with his receivers, but hopefully they can get this ironed out in the next week or so, because they got to go out and play those Jets.
Yeah, no. That was, I agree with you there on that. It wasn't the worst performance from Jimmy G, but we needed him to make some plays down the stretch, and he didn't. And some key moments we needed some plays from him, we didn't get it. The big thing for me was the matchup that stuck in my mind the most was still the DeAndre Hopkins matchup, and if you compare him to our receiving core, it was an absolute slaughtering. Like our receiving core looks worse than worse. Like, we already thought it was one of the weaker positions on the roster, and it feels like it's not strong. This game makes it look worse than I thought it was going to be. Hopkins goes 14 for $151, averaging 10 yards of reception. The thing we had talked about Friday was how we wanted to limit the big plays. He didn't really have. He had one big play. That was the blown coverage where he breaks across the middle on a little drag route, takes the ball, and almost takes it into the end zone. Other than that, there really wasn't any busted coverage or big plays. He just beat us on 10-yard, 12-yard outs, stops, whatever it was. He just get the separation, force our DBs to turn their hips and run like they were going to play a deep ball, and he just sit down, and Murray would hit him. And our receiving core went 4 receptions for 41 yards. You talked about it earlier. 2 receptions for Bourne, 2 for Taylor. Pettis gets 1 target. It really felt like Jimmy wasn't comfortable with his receiving core. Like, he was not good with those guys. He wasn't willing to take some shots when potentially he maybe had a chance to, and he wasn't in sync with them. In all honesty, he wasn't. A couple of the 2 throws he had to Trent Taylor, I think Taylor was targeted 4 times, and 2 of them were the last out route of the game, where he throws it inside and misses, and the little outside little hitch route he ran. It wasn't a full out, it was like a hitch route, it looked like, and Jimmy completely missed him.
And the deep ball.
Huh?
He had the deep ball to the end zone, too.
Deep ball to the end zone, too. That's right. He missed on that, so there was 5 targets for him. And then Bourne, he had on that little skinny post as well, where he completely overthrew him. Like, he threw it way over his head. I don't know if that was a situation where he was just hoping Bourne could go up in space and get it, or I don't know what happened. But it wasn't pretty. It wasn't great. Jimmy did not look comfortable with the receiving core out there. That last throw, the Taylor especially, there wasn't a lot of pressure. It just looks like some of the timing is off, and that might be some preseason game stuff or lack thereof. There's maybe some rust there with some of these guys, and maybe they're not getting as much. They haven't been getting as many first-team reps in practice. I don't know. We're not there. It's just a guess at this point. But that mismatch and that position breakdown, just DeAndre Hopkins and our entire wide receiving core, the disparity was huge, and things like that are going to cost you games.
So my key player comparison is Nick Bosa versus Chandler Jones. Honestly, I don't think either played that well. Chandler Jones got the cheap sack on the play where Jimmy G fumbled the ball a little bit, spun around 3 times. I'm not sure what he was doing there. And then finally he got past McGlinchey for a sack. That's not one that I'm really going to put on McGlinchey. He was running around back there for a long time. It was good initial protection. Bosa really failed to make an impact on the game that you need from a player of Nick Bosa's stature. He did have like 5 or 6 tackles. He had none for loss. He didn't have a sack. He lost contain on Kyler Murray a few times. It was definitely not his best game. It was probably one of the worst games I've seen him play since he came to the Niners. And I know he's a young guy still, and he's still learning, but he'd been, especially down the stretch last year, he'd been so dominant that we expect a dominant performance from him every week, and this definitely wasn't that. So I would give it to Chandler Jones a little bit, but outside of that one sack, he honestly got stonewalled too by McGlinchey and Trent Williams, and he really got stonewalled by Trent Williams. He looked like a 12-year-old playing against his 16-year-old brother. So I'd give that one slight edge to Chandler Jones.
And now it's time for our newest segment. It's this week's SAWFT Player of the Game.
SAWFT,
So for this week, our SAWFT Player of the Game consensus here on the 49ers Cutback is those pesky officials. Guys, how are we feeling about the some of those calls, especially late in the second half?
Awful. I couldn't believe the Hyder penalty. That was terrible. I mean, how soft are we getting in this league? I mean, it's stupid. Anytime a quarterback gets hit for any reason, he went head first. Even Dean Blandino was like, no, that's not a penalty. Like, it's bad. And they protect these guys to the utmost. It's crazy which guys get calls and which ones don't. Cam Newton's still waiting for a call. The guy never gets one, but Kyler Murray gets these 2 cheap ones today. It's a joke.
Yeah, that call was terrible on Hyder. I used to referee flag football. I don't know if I would have called a flag in flag football on that play.
The fundamentals.
The fundamentals.
But in all seriousness, in a flag football game, I don't know that I would have thrown a flag on that play. I think he touched him with a hand as he flew over him. There was no intent to put any punishment on him there. He clearly avoided contact. He flew over the top and touched him with his hands. And of course, Kyler Murray had to be that guy and jump up asking for the flag.
Well, not just that, but Kyler Murray the entire game, anytime there was pressure, getting anywhere remotely near to him, he would slide. Immediately would slide. He was sliding behind the line of scrimmage a couple of times. It's almost like they had talked about it. Cliff was talking about it. I was like, you know what? Let's use this to our advantage. Kyler, anytime a guy gets anywhere near you, you don't have anything, just get down. If they touch you or touch you too hard, we'll demand a flag. And the refs today were just throwing them out there, man. They were candy. It was candy on Halloween. Kyler Murray was dressed up as a cute little fresh-faced quarterback, and every time he got on the ground and someone got close to him and put a little too much pressure on him, the refs were like, oh, you're so cute. Here you go, take some. It was ridiculous. That one was bad. The Dre Greenlaw one, there's an argument to be made that was a late hit. But that was atrocious as well. Like, that was just as bad as the Kerry Hyder one. He didn't go in there with any intent. He didn't go in there after Kyler had slid. Kyler was starting to go down. He was already leaning forward in space. How are you supposed to stop your momentum? I don't understand how these types of judgment calls are just they've completely shifted. They've completely shifted from judgment call to it's for the offense. You got to protect the offensive player.
On the side of caution.
Yeah, but why? Where's the protection for the defensive players?
Yeah, I understand. At least that one I can make sense out of because he slid feet first. But yeah, it shouldn't have been a penalty.
I think if you're coming in, you're touching someone with your hands, and you're not putting any
you're
body
clearly
weight on
avoiding hitting them.
Then what's the big deal?
If they clearly avoid making contact with pads, then they're not trying to hurt them.
There's a difference between a guy sliding and you going in head first, and a guy sliding and you going in with your chest or your arms because you're starting to go make a play, and then you realize this guy's giving himself up, and you're trying not to go full bore, smack and bam, and he's sitting there on the ground unconscious. Like, you're trying to avoid that. You can tell when a guy's trying to avoid it and when a guy's intentionally going in there for the kill.
And they definitely were avoiding it on both.
Oh, they were not. Yeah, they were not trying to go in for the kill.
And now we're going to review our key matchups from the game. My first one was Trent Williams and McGlinchey versus Chandler Jones. I actually thought the 49ers won that matchup. Chandler Jones did get a sack, but like we talked about earlier, that one wasn't really on McGlinchey. Jimmy did that weird thing where the ball slipped out of his hand and spun around 3 times in the pocket. But for the whole rest of the game, he pretty much got stonewalled in pass protection. I actually thought those two did an excellent job blocking Chandler Jones today.
And for me, the one I had for the offensive end was Jordan Reed versus the linebacking core. And the safeties really was a loss if you really think about it. Reed wasn't on the field that much. The 2 times he was on the field, he made some catches. He had a couple catches, I think 2 catches in the day for about 20-something yards.
12 yards.
12 yards, that was 12 yards, so yeah, not 20-something. But 12 yards for Jordan Reed. He looked good when he was out there, but he wasn't out there that much, and therefore it's a loss because if you're not out there making plays, you're not out there to do stuff, you really can't have that much of an impact on the game.
Yeah, one of my key matchups, especially on offense, was Kittle versus Buda Baker. And, in the first half, George Kittle was really playing well until he got hurt. He had 4 catches for over 40 yards, and I think it ends up being a push just because he didn't do anything in the second half. But I still think that's a favorable matchup for the 49ers in the future. When they play again, I do think George Kittle will get the best of Buda Baker, but this time it was a push.
Now, my defensive key matchup was the Niners defensive ends containing Kyler Murray, and I'm going to have to give them an F- on this. They definitely did not do a good job of containing Kyler. He either kept a lot of plays going and then threw it with his feet or just took off running through lanes their defensive line left open. He ran for near 100 yards. He completely changed the dynamic of the game running the ball. So I'm definitely going to have to go with the Niners a fail on that one.
The other one I had on the defensive side of the ball was the Hot Boys versus Kenyon Drake. I personally feel like it's a win. This is probably up for debate. Some people are going to feel like it's a loss. Drake did score. 16 carries for 60 yards, though, is not a good day. 3.8 yards a carry is not bad, but the first 2 times that Kenyon Drake played us, he had much better performances than this. He played a lot better. We really kind of stonewalled him today. There were only a few missed tackles by the linebacking core that I saw that I can remember. The one in the hole, Fred Warner, when he came up in the hole and basically got spun off. That was bad. Wasn't great, but for the most part, they held the running backs in check other than Kyler Murray. And in those situations, Kyler Murray was dropping back to pass and they were in coverage, so it's not 100% their responsibility every time to be stopping him in space so much as it is our D-line supposed to be slowing him down. Overall, I think it's a win, but I understand that this one might be up for debate.
Yeah, that's one of the dangers of playing zone. You got these guys, that are playing back deep. So Kyler had some lanes to run in. My key matchup is DeAndre Hopkins versus Emmanuel Mosley. And I knew this was going to be a stretch. This was going to be scary. And they even went 4 wide receivers to one side. The old oop-de-oop on one side. And Hopkins one-on-one with Mosley on the other. And, Mosley looked like he was just so worried about getting beat deep. And so he let, plays happen underneath and tried to make tackles. And it just really wasn't the best matchup for the 49ers. They're going to have to figure something out. When Richard Sherman traveled with him early on in the game, I thought it was really good. They were holding Hopkins. But once he went to Mosley and they started playing their normal traditional cover 3, it really changed. And Mosley was struggling to make tackles in open field, even on tight ends. So, yeah, that's something that the 49ers are going to have to work on. Hopefully Mosley can pick up his game. But the next time they play, they got to have a better plan for Hop, because he got down today, 14 catches, over 150 yards. Man, what a debut for him. But the Niners will figure it out. I have faith in Saleh and that secondary. They'll figure something out. They'll make this happen.
Now let us know in the comments section down below what you think some of the key matchups were that the 49ers won or lost from this Week 1 game against the Arizona Cardinals. And while you're down there, make sure that you like the video, comment on the video, subscribe to the video, and share. See, it says it right down there at the bottom on the little scrolling bar. Make sure you do that. And now, it's time to find out who was hot on the block this week in The Block is Hot.
And for our first edition of The Block is Hot Defensive Player of the Week, we have decided to go with defensive lineman Kerry Hyder. He had a good day. He had a sack. He had another tackle. He rotated in. He seemed to provide pressure whenever he was in. He didn't seem caught out of his lanes as much as the other guys. So we're going with Kerry Hyder for The Block is Hot Defensive Player of the Week.
Big time, big time. He looked solid. We had talked about earlier, we didn't feel like Bosa and D Ford really stood out today. And so because of that, we started looking at other positions, and we had talked about a couple of the guys who got sacks on the D-line. And Hyder not only got some sacks, but looked like he was in position more often than not, got some pressures, made the most of the snaps that he did get. Chris Kasarik looks like he was right on the money with this guy so far. He looks pretty solid.
Yeah, I'm interested to see what they do with him in the future. I think he's going to play some more inside of the D tackle spot on obvious passing downs. So I think he'll be in there with Bosa, with Ford. So some of the stunts and stuff that we're going to see, it's going to be nice. They got a nice rotation going there. Kerry Hyder can be a very good player for the 49ers this year. Hopefully he stays healthy, because as long as he does, things are going to be a little bit different against Darnold next week. Because Darnold ain't a scrambler like they saw this week. So these guys will be able to fly upfield faster, won't have to worry about staying in lanes as much for Kyler Murray. So, yeah, it'll be a lot better coming up this next week.
He's seeing ghosts, Ant.
Yeah, everywhere. I see that.
He's on track for 16 sacks, by the way.
Oh, my.
Okay, yeah, that's true. All right, now we're going to be talking about the straight beast from the 49ers. Yeah, so we discussed a couple of guys for the Offensive Player of the Week, the straight beast, and we decided to go with Trent Williams. After that huge block that he made on the Kittle run, I don't think there was really anyone else you could go with. Mostert had a nice play, but nobody was straight beast like Trent Williams.
Yeah, I totally agree. Trent Williams completely stonewalled his side of the line in pass protection. There's even a play, if you want to look it up on the highlights, where a guy blitzes outside of him. He shoves his guy inside to Tomlinson and then steps outside and still makes the block on the blitzing linebacker. Trent Williams had a heck of a day. On a day where not too many skill position players delivered, this is a chance for a lineman to get some love, and he definitely took advantage of it.
Yeah, and I think the big thing is a lot of people will be upset because they'll feel like Mostert is the one who made the big plays, put the points on the board, put us in position to score and all of that fun stuff. And while that is true and that is accurate, at the end of the day, consistency matters. And the straight beast player has to be someone who's consistent for 4 quarters. Mostert wasn't consistent for 4 quarters. Most of the offense wasn't consistent for 4 quarters, but he was. Trent Williams was consistent from start to finish. He didn't get beat. The one possession where it looked like he did maybe get a little bit beat was that 4th and 1 where we got stuffed at the goal line. Trent Williams, the guy starts to cross his face. And even in situations when Trent Williams gets beat, he still wins. He still wins. The dude is an absolute sav. He is a straight beast, and that's why he is our straight beast offensive player.
Hey, horse
of the game.
You know what I got to say about that? Left side.
Strong side.
Left side.
Strong side.
I don't get it.
It's okay, man. You will. You're really good.
You will remember
forever.
Yeah.
Well, I think the 49ers are going to remember this one for a long time.
Nope. They're already done.
You know what?
Moved on.
On.
Flush and go.
You know what? That was a good
Jets.
take, bro.
It was a good take. Thank you, man.
Yeah.
They're moved on to the Jets.
They are moved on to the Jets.
It's time.
And now for the hardest part of this episode today. Let's take a look at those NFC West standings, shall we, boys? As you can see, not looking too good for the 49ers. It's not going great. Sitting there at the bottom of the NFC West. And how you feeling about this start?
Not worried about it. You got to go from first to last. So this will be the greatest comeback story in the history of the NFL. From 0-1 to Super Bowl. Calling it.
Wait, is this a Wow That's Bold segment? Should I throw in the graphic real quick?
No, it's just week 1. If we start getting, down the road a little bit, if we get to week 4 and all of a sudden we're 1-3 or something like that, then I'd be more nervous. But 0-1, I'm not really worried.
Yeah, I'm not too worked up about it either. It's one game. And it's not like they came out and just got obliterated. They made some mistakes. They lost a game they deserved to lose because they made mistakes. If we lose to the Jets and the Giants, then I'll be concerned. But it's one game. There's 15 to go. I think they're fine.
Yeah. I will say this, 49ers faithful out there, keep the faith. Don't panic. There's no need to yet. We're not in dire straits. This isn't the end of the world. It's surprising. It stings. It sucks, especially after how last season ended. You don't want to start off the year this way, but this isn't the first team that's ever lost in a Super Bowl that's lost their opening game. Plenty of teams in NFL history have lost their first game after losing a Super Bowl and at least even gotten back to the playoffs. Pretty sure the Bills even made it back to a Super Bowl. They lost 4 straight. I think we should be counting our lucky stars right now. This team is trending up. It wasn't a great day, but not every day can be. It's going to be all right, faithful. Keep the faith.
The 93 Cowboys started 0-3 and won the Super Bowl, so...
Thanks for bringing that up. I had to block that out.
I mean, I just don't think about the Cowboys. So.
My life is a lie.
It's all a lie.
But we want you guys to make sure you watch Friday's episode. Friday's episode is going to be crazy, off the hook fun. We're going to be previewing 49ers versus Jets with their own spin. The Azorean One will be back.
That's right, he will.
That's worth tuning in. Yeah, next, make sure you guys tune in Friday. It's going to be a great episode, another great preview of the game. We'll give you our key matchups. We'll give you the starting lineups. Hopefully people don't get pulled last second after we give you those starting lineups. It's going to be a great episode you don't want to miss. We will see you guys then.
Thanks for watching the show. Make sure to like, subscribe, comment, click the notification bell so you get notification anytime we put up a video. Thank you for watching the 49ers Cutback Podcast. Chalk another one up, guys.